Good morning, everybody. First of all, many thanks for coming out in this kind of weather and for finding us actually out here. I think the crew that put all this together, Marie, and everybody deserves a round of applause. Things like United States Air Force 67 through 71, and we're here today to pay tribute to our fallen heroes and to recognize the sacrifice, the ultimate sacrifice that our men and women gave in service to our country. To begin, I'd like to recognize a few dignitaries that are with us today. We have Bill Reddish, Community Liaison for Representative Indy Harris, Thomas Kimball, Representative for George Owings, Maryland Department of Veteran Affairs. Jim Mathias is with us today. Representative Mary Beth Carrozza, Representative Charles Otto, Commissioner Chip Bertino, Jim Bunting, the President of Worcester County Commissioners, Ocean Pines Board Member Tom Herrick, Ocean Pines Board Member Tom Terry, Ocean Pines Board Member Cheryl Jacobs, and Ocean Pines General Manager Bob Thompson. Have a round of applause for our We also have members of the greatest generation here today. I would ask that all World War II veterans please stand and be recognized. All right, now I'd like to ask everyone to please stand as Nate Pearson, past commander and chaplain, American Legion Post 166, delivers the invocation. Please remain standing until the colors are retired.
Let us pray. Almighty God, Father of all mankind and Judge of all nations, we ask that you bless this Memorial Day program here today and look down with favor and understanding on the hearts of those gathered here today to honor and pay their respects to those who have made the supreme sacrifice for the benefit of free men everywhere. The lives of those who have made the supreme sacrifice in all wars now number over 1.5 million veterans, and they are glorious before us, and their deeds constitute a daily inspiration. We also give thanks to all veterans and active duty military personnel and their families for their service and their sacrifice to this great nation. Finally, we most gratefully give thanks to the officers and members of the Worcester County Veterans Memorial Foundation, whose mission and service assures that our veterans and their sacrifices shall never be forgotten. Amen. Amen.
The colors will be posted by a joint color guard. The national anthem will be sung by Stephen Decatur High School sophomore Frankie Nana, accompanied by Frank Nana and the WW2s.
Oh, can you see by the dawn's early dawn what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleam, whose broad flames and bright stars night that our flag was saved us that stars better yet wait for the land of the free and the home of the great.
Now the members of the Legion Riders, Post 166, will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please be seated. Active duty service member, Commander Timothy Sparks, United States Coast Guard, Ocean City, and Lieutenant Commander Kelly Reeby, U.S. Navy retired, will lead veterans Diane Tanner, Lieutenant J.G. Nurse Corps, U.S. Navy, Lou Ann Trummel, Staff Sergeant, United States Air Force, Janet Cassidy, Airman First Class, United States Air Force, Sandra McAbee, Specialist Fourth Class, U.S. Army, and Colonel Fran Gilsdorf, U.S. Army retired, as they present a wreath at, well, the garden, they're going to bring it right up here, dedicated to female veterans. As the wreath is presented, Carol Ludwig, accompanied by U.S. Army Green Beret veteran Randy Lee Ashcraft, will perform Some Gave All.
I had a friend called her Sandy Kane. Few folks even knew her name, but a hero still was she. She left a girl, came home veteran. Still many just don't understand of all the reasons we are free. I can't forget the look in her eye, or the tears she cried, when she said these words to me. Some gave all gave some. Some stood true for the red, white, and blue. Some had to fall. If you ever think of me, think of all your liberties and recall. Yes, recall. Some gave all. Sandy Kane is no longer here, but her words are oh so clear as they echo through our land. For all our friends who gave us all, who stood the ground and took the fall, all to help their fellow man. Love your country, live with pride, and don't forget those who died. Oh, America, can't you see? You can't see. All gave some gave all stood true for the red, white, and blue, but some had to fall. So if you think of liberty, be sure to think of me and recall. Yes, recall. Some gave all.
On this day, as well as Veterans Day and Armed Forces Day, we would be remiss if we didn't pay tribute to those who remain at home or travel to foreign lands in support of their spouse. We honor all military wives who keep the family stable while their loved one serves. Mary Adair, a military wife herself, will read Military Wife.
The military wife is a special individual. When she was a girl, her dreams were bold as her fine, free gaze. And every gift of grace and mind was hers in her younger days. When she was a girl, a golden girl, with a soul as fine as fire, she could outshine the brightest jewel that a rich man's love might buy her. Yes, hers could have been the glittering path through a careless, carefree life. But she fell in love with a military man, so she became a military wife. Away from the home of her childhood, she marched at her husband's side, for she chose a wide and winding road when she became a bride. And sometimes the road was a hard one, so different from what she had planned. And sometimes she wept for the home she had left as she lay in a foreign land. And sometimes her steps would grow weary as she followed the drum in the fight. But she set about making the world her home because she was a military wife. She learned to build a hearth for them wherever her man was sent. And she knelt to plant a garden every time he pitched the tent. Yes, she always planted a garden, though she never saw it grow, for she knew before the flowers came, she would have to go. But she left each garden gladly, though it cut her like a knife, for she hoped it might bring some comfort to another military wife. To the hardships in her married life, she brought one simple truth, a promise that once was spoken in the ancient words of Ruth. Wherever you go, I will go. Wherever you lodge, I will lodge. Thy people shall be my people, and thy God shall be my God. She shared his joys and sorrows as they made their way through life, for she was proud to love her husband and to be a military wife. She bore the weight of worrying what fate might hold in store and the wordless fear of waiting when her husband went to war. And the nights that she spent fearing that her waiting was in vain, and the pain of wanting someone she might never hold again. But she bore his children gladly through uncertainty and strife, and they never heard her crying, for she was a military wife. She raised a military family with the faith her love had taught her. She gave the pride she had inside to her son and to her daughter. And she taught them to love freedom and to know what it was worth as they helped her plant her gardens in the corners of the earth. And she never wished for better than the road they marched through life, because she was as much a veteran as she was military wife.
Thank you, Mary. The Delmarva Chorus, directed by Carol Ludwig, will lead us in the singing of our service anthems. Carol?
Hello. We would like to have our Army veterans please stand up and proud. We're going to sing your song. Army. 1, 2, 3.
First we fight for the right and to build the nation's might, and the army goes rolling along. Proud of all we have done, fighting till the battle's won, and the army goes rolling along. So it's high, the army on the way, and the army takes down the foe. So wherever we go, we will always know that the army is rolling along.
All Marines are standing back here. Here we go. 1, 2, 3.
From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, we will fly out and breathe fast in the air on land and sea. As we fight for right and freedom, as we keep our honor and peace, we are proud to play the tide of United States of
Next down. There. 1, 3, go.
Anchors away, my boy. Anchors away. Farewell to darling country, sail and take away. Our hearts side shore, trees to the bone. And till we meet once more, here's wishing you a happy home. Off we go into the wild blue yonder. We're always ready for the call. We place our trust in thee. To serve your men and now our purpose be. Send the prophets our God, our name our glory to fight to save your fight to fight to fight for you.
now my pleasure to introduce to you one of our own, a son of Ocean Pines residents, Al and Carol Kastner. Captain Kurt Kastner has served our country since he was commissioned an ensign in 1989. A highly decorated Captain Kastner assumed the duties as executive officer of the USS Wasp in June of 2013 and took command in January 2015, leading the ship through aggressive maintenance, combat systems upgrade, and training schedule preparing the ship for his first deployment in 10 years. He will report to the Commander, Naval Surface Force Atlantic next month. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome our keynote speaker, Captain Kastner.
That wonderful introduction. Distinguished guests, family members, friends, good morning. It's an honor and a privilege for me to be here today. I was asked to share my thoughts on Memorial Day with all of you, and I talked to my dad about this morning because this was not an easy bunch of remarks to write. But to me, Memorial Day comes down to two topics, both of which are near and dear to me: service and sacrifice. Would all the veterans in the audience please raise your hand? Wow. Please join me in a round of applause. Thank you for being in attendance today. In the Navy, we call it standing the watch. And if not for your willingness to serve, we would not be here today. We would not be able to remember and honor those who did not come home. Memorial Day was originally called Decoration Day, and it began in 1868 as a result of the Civil War. It served as an occasion for relatives and grateful citizens to decorate the graves of those who died in service to their country. In the years that followed the end of the war, all Americans observed the day, coming together in a shared desire to honor their heroes. All too often, though, Memorial Day is seen by many as a day off from work, the beginning of the summer, or the end of the school year for the kids in attendance. But you've all taken time to be here today at this ceremony to honor fallen servicemen and women, fathers and mothers, brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, and friends of the nation's 5 military services. Like you, many Americans throughout the country today will gather and share in the spirit of unity and remembrance during parades, memorial services, the ringing of bells, or the sound of the lone bugler playing taps. Not far from here in our nation's capital, a parade of marching bands and veterans units from all 50 states will step off from Constitution Avenue and march past the White House. Even Canada will celebrate their Remembrance Day, when men will wear poppies in the lapels of their jackets to honor those brothers who still lie in Flanders Field. I've had many people thank me for my service today, and while I genuinely appreciate that, today is really not about me or about anybody currently serving. Today is much more somber. Today is about honoring those who sacrificed their lives in the service to their country. Today is about remembering. President Kennedy said, "A nation reveals itself not only by the men it produces, but also by the men it honors, the men it remembers." Today we remember the service and sacrifice of those who gave it all. Gave it all so that we could raise families, build careers, and carry on the torch of freedom. It is because of their sacrifice that we're able to take up our lives. Whether you're a community leader, whether you stand the neighborhood watch, whether you stand up for injustice, or merely refuse to allow people to tread on you, whether you're rich or poor, famous or unknown, whether you're about to be the President of the United States or the President of the PTA, you've been able to do all those things and enjoy those freedoms because of the service and sacrifice of the men and women we honor here today. Today, we honor the fallen. We thank them by remembering their service and sacrifice. So on this most noble of days, take a moment with me to reflect and remember. Whether you're a veteran who lost a brother or sister in arms on the firing line, a family member, a friend, or a grateful citizen, remember this is not just a day off. This is not a day that marks the beginning of the summer. This is not the end of the school year. It's a day to honor and remember those who made the ultimate sacrifice for us and their country. I'd like to speak a moment to the parents and the teachers in the audience. Former President Reagan said, "Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We don't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on for them to do the same. Well, one day, we will be telling our children and our children's children what it was once like in the United States where men were free." It is our responsibility to learn, understand, and teach our children what it means to be free. It is our responsibility to teach our children what the men and women who wore the uniform sacrificed for our freedom. It is our responsibility to learn, understand, and teach our children that in order to protect freedom, we must stand together as Americans and be willing to fight. Take a moment to talk to your kids and students about the men and women we honor here today. Throughout history, we find countless heroes, men and women, who were willing to make and did make the ultimate sacrifice. 750,000 killed during the Civil War, over 450,000 killed during World War II, 100,000 in World War I, 58,000 in Vietnam, and more than 6,000 killed currently in Iraq and Afghanistan. Take a walk later when the weather's nicer around the Worcester Veterans Memorial and read the names on those bricks, many who selflessly made the ultimate sacrifice. Today, we honor them all. I'll close with this thought. Without the true grit, determination, and sacrifice of our nation's servicemen and women, our country's heroes, life as we know it would be markedly different than it is today. And if I could ask a favor of you, I would ask that before you put your head down tonight, remember all the sailors, Coast Guardsmen, Marines, airmen, and soldiers who have given their lives, who have served and who are deployed around the world, working so hard, putting so much at risk, sacrificing so much so that we can be here today. I ask you to keep them all in your thoughts and prayers. Thank you all very much for sharing part of your day with me, and God bless.
Very nice. Right now, I'd like to invite Wilda Street, honoring her husband, Sergeant Clifton Street, U.S. Army, and Betty Burbage, honoring her husband, Sergeant Jack Burbage, U.S. Army, accompanied by Ken Hodges and Marcus Hedges, son-in-law and grandson of member William Esham and Antonio and Connie Galippi, grandchildren of Commander Sangermano. Please proceed to the flagpole. First State Detachment Marine Corps League members will escort members of the Maryland East Chapter, American ex-POWs, as they place a wreath in honor of all POWs and those missing in action. Commander Joseph Sangermano, U.S. Army, is accompanied by Frank Wright, U.S. Army, Benjamin Lewis, U.S. Army, Walter Webster, U.S. Army, Jack Hallman, Army Air Corps. Specialist First Class John Fox, Air National Guard, will lead them as they present a wreath honoring all American POWs and those missing in action. As the wreath is presented, the OC Pipers will perform Amazing Grace. Andy Lee Ashcraft asks everybody to join him as he performs Proud to Be an American.
I'm going to need it. I think we all get emotional. I just happen to do it publicly every year. If tomorrow all things were gone, I've worked for all my life, and I had to start again, just my children and my wife. I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, because the flag still stands for freedom. They can't take that away. I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died. They gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. Ain't no doubt I love this man. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea. Welcome Detroit down to Houston, from New York to LA. There's pride in every American heart, and it's time to stand and say, come on man. I am proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died. They gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today. Ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. Yes, I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free. And I won't forget the men who died. They gave that right to me, and I gladly stand up next to you, defend her still today. Ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. No, there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
A Gold Star mother is a mom whose son or daughter has given all for their country. Today, we honor these Gold Star mothers who live in our community. Members of the 1st State Detachment Marine Corps League will present yellow roses to Gold Star mothers, Catherine Kit Federico, in memory of her son, Lance Corporal David Hart, United States Marine Corps, Vietnam 67. Vina Bailey, in memory of her son, Lance Corporal C. Keith Bailey, United States Marine Corps, Lebanon, 1983. We remember also our other local heroes who gave all, whose moms could not be with us here today. Debbie Grove, in memory of her son, Staff Sergeant Jeremy Doyle, U.S. Army, Iraq, 2005. Chris Coplin, Specialist, U.S. Army, Afghanistan. And we also remember Daniel Suplee, Sergeant First Class, U.S. Army, Afghanistan, and Samuel Bowen, Private First Class, U.S. Army, Iraq, and James McIlvain, Sergeant, U.S. Army, Iraq, whose Gold Star mothers and grandmother are no longer with us. Thank you to our Gold Star mothers. Your sons will be forever in our hearts.
In the long and honored history of America, there are names that shine like beacons in the night. Patriots whose vision gave us meaning, who kept the lamp of freedom burning bright. In the long and honored history of America, there are those who paid the last and final price, who were called upon by chance or desperate circumstance, make the ultimate sacrifice. A grateful nation bows its head in sorrow and in thanks for guaranteeing our tomorrow. The last hope. The last full measure of devotion, that's what they gave to the cause. The last full measure of devotion, and though they cannot hear our applause, we honor them forever and keep alive their stories. We give to them our thanks and give them all the glory. That's full measure of devotion. Beyond the call of duty were their deeds. Last full measure of devotion, they gave themselves to serve a greater need. And for those who did survive and came back home alive, they join in praying the comrades who were slain. And
everyone to please stand as Veterans Memorial Foundation Board member Deacon John Lemon delivers our benediction.
Gracious God, on this Memorial Day weekend, we remember and give thanks for those who have given their lives in the service of our country. When the need was greatest, they stepped forward and did their duty to defend the freedoms that we enjoy and to win the same for others. Oh God, you yourself have taught us that no love is greater than that which gives itself for another. These honored dead gave the most precious gift they had, life itself, for loved ones and neighbors, for comrades and country, and for us. Help us to honor their memory by caring for the family members that they have left behind, by ensuring that their wounded comrades are properly cared for, by being watchful caretakers of the freedoms for which they gave their lives, and by demanding that no other young men and women follow them to a soldier's grave unless the reason is worthy and the cause is just. Holy One, help us to remember that freedom is not free. There are times when its cost is indeed dear. Never let us forget those who paid so terrible a price to ensure that freedom would be their legacy. Though their names may fade with the passing of generations, may we never forget what they have done. Help us to be worthy of their sacrifice. Oh God, help us to be worthy. Amen.
Thank you all for joining us this morning as we honor those who gave all. Please join us again on November 11th as we honor all our veterans. God bless the greatest country in the world, the United States of America. Thank you.
see.